What's up, guys? Welcome back to another great episode of Your Field Fantasy Shots. I'm your host tonight, your bartender as always, Dan Theory at Theory BFF. You can follow, that's where you can follow me on the Twitters. You can follow my wonderfully obnoxious but lovable, huggable, all the lovable, huggable things hosts and Nick Sparts at Nick Sparts or mainly on the show page at Beardfield FF. And then Chris Hopper at Hot BFF with two P's. So for this episode, normally we'll record the news first and then our segment, but because it's waivers and they're a little more important, I'm going to record that first, jump that out first. I want these to be up a little bit sooner, so I do apologize for that. So I'm going to go on and jump into it. My number one claims for this week are actually our claims because they're 1A, 1B. That's Tariq Cohen and Javoris Buck Allen. Cohen is owned at 25.6% and Buck Allen is owned at 0.8%. I expect these to jump up and skyrocket by this week. We'll start with Cohen. For those that watched the game, he was a beast. He was, in my opinion, the best looking back, even better than Howard, even though Howard is going to be the focus of defense when they play against the Bears. Cohen has carved himself a role. He carved himself a role in preseason as the passing down back because he looked really good. And we've been, as a show, have been high on him since the draft. We loved his tape. We loved his landing spot with the Bears. Even when they brought in Benny Cunningham, we still loved him. And even with all their injuries, he still earned that spot. And you saw it pay off this week. The only thing I like about him more than Buck Allen is that I think he's safer with that PPR role. Think of him as a new age Darren Sproles, where he'll get you probably 3 to 5 receptions a week, probably upwards of 5 to 7 targets, if not more. And obviously those numbers can rise, but that's just his floor. He has shown the ability to break off long runs, which is what we definitely want to see. And it kind of gives that great 1-2 punch as a running back core that is going to keep defenses on their toes. Moving on to Buck Allen from the Ravens, as I said, owned in 0.8%. With Woodhead's injury, who's out for 4 to 6 weeks, he's going to probably jump into the pass catching role. Both him and Terrence West have shown the ability to catch passes out of the backfield. West got the lone touchdown on the run last week. Buck actually out-snapped him and out-carried him, but I believe that was more of game script towards the end of the game. West had the better day, quote-unquote better day, but Buck Allen has secured his role, and he actually secured his role really in preseason, where he outperformed the aforementioned Terrence West. Being as it's only for 4 to 6 weeks, this is a little bit lower. We should be a little more weary on this when Woodhead comes back. But if Allen looks to outperform West long term, this could be huge because you could have maybe you found your Justin Forsett of a few years ago. But he should definitely be owned at more than 0.8%. And I expect this to jump up to about 50% after this week. Moving on to a guy that, as a show we love, I don't understand how this isn't higher, but that's Cooper Kupp at 20.8% from the Rams. During preseason, he showed his great chemistry with Goff. Him and Goff were connecting just before Kupp got hurt before Game 3. Which is probably why his numbers dipped down because Week 3 obviously is a big drafting week and he was hurt for it, so no one got to see him. The Rams last week obviously looked fantastic against a very, very, very terrible Colts defense and especially secondary. But he should be owned with the loss of Allen Robinson and then with other suspended guys like Snead. He should be owned on way more than 28% rosters, and as we've announced on the show and as Hopper predicted, that Kupp could out-catch Watkins and be a better PPR receiver. Moving on to Kenny Golladay, 21.3% out of the Detroit Lions. He out-targeted Jones last week, 7-2. He was the last 2 receiving touchdowns at the end of that game. The first one came to put him up 21-17, and the second one came with only 4 minutes left to put him up 28-17. He's important. I predicted early on that he was going to be the winner of the Bolden red zone targets, not Ebron, not Jones. As we saw with Golden Tate and how much he can beast, he will still be a factor So Galladay won't earn a 1 role, but he will, in my opinion, earn that 2 role as the season goes on, and Jones and him will be competing for those top two, the top 2 and 3 targets for this team that loves to pass the football because they don't really have a running game at this point. So moving on to the Eagles with Nelson Aguilar, another random first-round pick that kind of just got himself into a role. They put him into the slot in preseason, which is why they moved on from Jordan Matthews because he's obviously going to save him a lot more money. He's only owned in 16.4% of leagues. Had a great week last week against Washington. Scored on a nice, beautiful, deep throw from Wentz. And he should definitely be owned in more than 16 to 4% of leagues. Right now, he looks to be the number 2 or 3 target in this target order. I think on given days he could be higher. Ertz is, my opinion, the number 1 target here over Alshon Jeffrey, and I think that Aguilar could be competing with Alshon in terms of the target, I guess, a target order. But this is something to monitor, something to definitely keep, and he should be owned in a lot more leagues. Slot receivers are typically the higher PPR-oriented receivers, and that's where Aguilar is mostly playing. So you should definitely be owned. Pick him up before you can, or pick him up before you can't. Moving on to Shane Vereen, owned in 30.7% of leagues. He is the only effective back in New York, getting, I believe, 10 targets on Sunday night against the Cowboys. No carries, which is what you should expect. Decently high floor. And with the loss of David Johnson to IR to return, he's the guy that you need to own or should own. He will give you dud weeks, though, so just be wary of that. I've owned him in the past and have been bitten by this, but he's still a guy who should be owned and picked up. But number 7 is Kerwin Williams / Andre Ellington. Williams is owned in 5.5% of leagues, and Ellington is owned in 0.8% of leagues. So the reason I point this as a slash is that I think Kerwin is the guy to own in standard leagues, and Andre Ellington is the guy to own in PPR leagues. I don't really like them both. I don't like them long term. They do have a good matchup though against Indy, and for now, Kerwin is starter. I do believe that Ellington's going to see more pass catching work. I would avoid this backfield altogether, in my opinion, but both of these guys should be owned. I expect Ellington not to be owned much, but Williams to see his numbers skyrocket. I believe Ellington's a guy you can pick up post waiver if you don't want to lose your spot, which is a great strategy for early season claims. Moving on to number 8 is Kobe Fleener, the only really good-looking Saints playmaker this week against the Vikings. It was Nick's start, one of Nick's starts, so shout out to Nick for that great call there. I believe he had 5 for 57 and a touchdown. He had another good matchup against New England. They held Kelsey in check, but that was because their game plan was to hold Kelsey in check. But this is a home game for the Saints where Breeze dominates. This is my prediction to be the highest scoring game of the week, and Fleener should be a part of that. He should definitely be owned at more than 16.7%, and is a good streaming tight end this week, especially for guys like me who own Hunter Henry. Got fucking burned by it. Move on to my number 9 and number 10. They're the same. They're your high streaming quarterbacks of the week. Bradford ahead of Palmer. I believe in this Vikings offense. I really do. I've been saying it all summer that I believe. This is the most balanced this team has looked since 2009. Cook looks to be the real deal. Bradford looks very comfortable. The offensive line is blocking for them, which is allowing him to throw the ball deep. Many people forget that he is a good intermediate to deep route thrower. You just don't see that because a lot of teams he's been on has had bad offensive lines or just really hasn't had the receivers that make plays for him. Diggs and Thielen are those type of receivers. Cook has some drops in the passing game, which hurt, but it was his first game as a rookie. I expect him to clean those up, and I expect him to be a beast moving forward. And Bradford to be a potential QB1, end of season QB1. He's owned 11% of leagues. Palmer, the next I'm going to talk about, 11.3% of leagues. Palmer has a great matchup. I've mentioned this with Williams and Ellington. He's playing against a really, really bad Indy team in defense that just made Jared Goff look like the fucking second coming to Tom Brady. He doesn't have David Johnson, which makes this offense a little too one-dimensional. But guys like Fitz and Brown can make and break your day as a quarterback. I expect Palmer to bounce back. He's my start of the week that will be posted tomorrow on our podcast. So that's why I love him so much. Some honorable mentions, one other guys from each position that you could target. There's Alex Smith, only 41%, that obviously jump rocketed after Thursday night's game. I put the narrative apart. I put the narrative together, which has been said a lot on Twitter, that they drafted Mahomes, just lit a fire under Smith's ass, and maybe they're ready because they have a guy like Hill who can stretch the defense so well that maybe they're going to let Smith air it out a little bit more. We've seen enough of Smith to maybe say that's otherwise. It's a bold prediction. That's why he's an honorable mention. Keep an eye on this. My running back is Alvin Kamara. He's owned in 5.9% of leagues. The show loves him. We love him. I'm not sold in the Saints' backfield. Mark Ingram can still catch the pass, but Kamara out-snapped and almost all, I believe he out-snapped and out-carried. I know he did for sure for AP and potentially dead over Ingram, but Ingram got all the garbage time. I got all the late game stuff, which worries me some because the Saints defense isn't that good. That we'll see more Ingram because of garbage time points, but he's still a guy who should be owned in more than 5.9% of leagues. Moving on to receiver. This is Allen Hurns. At 2.3%. You can really put Marquise Lee here as well. I haven't written his down, but it's going to be low as well. Jacksonville has to throw the ball to somebody with A-Rob out on IR with a torn ACL for the year. Jacksonville is moving to more of a first run-heavy offense because of how good their defense has looked so far. But every number one receiver should be owned in over 50% of leagues, and this is including Jets players. So I do have a lot of faith in him producing, maybe. I wouldn't really start him, but he's a guy who should be owned on more than 2.3% of rosters. Moving on to my last spot, the tight end. Sorry about the camera, it's been a little janky. Is Jesse James. He's owned at 14.1%. He had a hell of a day against Cleveland, 2 touchdowns. He looks to be the third target on the target order in Pittsburgh, which is pretty fucking good if you ask me. And if teams are looking to really hone in on guys like Brown and Bryant, Brown's really hard to keep in check. It's pretty much impossible. But this will leave guys like Jesse James to run free over the middle, up-seam routes in the red zone. And you could see another Heath Miller type of performance over some of his years where he's produced as a low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2. Great streaming options to get good matchups. I like him. I like him this week against Minnesota because I think Minnesota's going to focus on trying to contain Brown as much as they possibly can. Take out Bryant's deep game. Bell will probably get his own because he didn't do shit last week against Cleveland. But I do like Jesse James. Owned at 14.1%, should be higher. Again, just like I said with Kobe Fleener, when you had guys like Hunter Henry shit the bed on you and change the way you look at that tight end offense in with the Chargers, excuse me. He's a name that you can pick up in a lot of leagues. That's what I got for the waiver wire for week 1 going into the waiver wire going into week 2. As I said, I will try to post these up a little bit sooner than 9:36 at night, so you guys have a little more information going into your who you want to pick up for your waivers. None of these guys should go for more than 15% of your fab budget. For those of you out there doing fab, first off, good job doing fab because fab's the best. If you haven't told your league to change over from waiver wire to fab, do so please. The reason I say that no more than 15% is that none of these guys are game-breaking pickups. They have potential to be. A lot of them are just safe, floor, which is don't overreact too much to the David Johnson loss. It is week 1, which means a lot of your bench players you drafted just in case or are potential stashes. So that don't spend your fab. Don't spend your low. Don't bust your low week 1. Save that shit for later when you're going into the into playoff push and you need that one great start. That's all I have for you guys today for the waiver wire. I'm Dan Theory at 3BFF. Please like and subscribe. Leave comments on our channels. Let us know how we're doing, please, so we can keep getting better for you guys. We appreciate all the love that you shout out at us on Twitter, on whatever. Please please subscribe. Leave us comments on iTunes. We love being in the top 20 of podcasts when searched for fantasy football, but we want you guys to let us know how we're doing there so we can keep improving. Tell us that we're doing great. Tell us that Oh, doing bad. Tell Hopper to fuck off for all I care. But I'm going to get this posted, and then we'll have a new segment up here shortly. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.